Have you ever thought you were doing everything right to stay safe only to discover later that the very thing you trusted might actually put you at risk? Here's a startling truth. A brand new Supreme Court decision delivered with a rare 9-0 vote has just changed the rules of the game. It touches two of the most important protections you and I rely on every single day: your right to own a firearm and your right to privacy. Today, I'm going to show you exactly what this ruling means in plain English and why it matters to you, your family, and even the way you live in your own home. This isn't just a technical change in the law. It's a shift that could affect how safe you feel, how much freedom you keep, and how much control the government has over your life. But before we dive in, I'd love to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time of day is it right now? I'm really looking forward to reading your answers. And if you find value in this video, hit the subscribe button. And if you don't, just tap the like button instead. What the Supreme Court actually decided. The Supreme Court rarely speaks with one voice, but in this case, every justice agreed, delivering a unanimous 9-0 ruling that carries enormous weight. When the court rules unanimously, it means the legal principles are so clear, so vital, that disagreement was impossible, and that tells us the changes will last for years to come. The case itself came from challenges to both federal and state restrictions rules that many ordinary citizens felt had quietly taken away. Rights they had assumed were protected forever. At the center was a question as old as the Constitution itself. How much power should government have to regulate our private lives? And where must the line be drawn to protect individual freedom? For the Second Amendment, the court affirmed something most of you have always believed deep down, that the right to own a firearm is not a privilege, but a fundamental safeguard. It cannot be buried under paperwork, endless waiting periods, or regulations that make it nearly impossible for a law-abiding senior to keep a firearm for protection in the home. Imagine living alone, perhaps widowed, and being told you must wait weeks or months or pay high fees just to own a tool that helps you feel safe in your own living room. That kind of burden is what the court declared unacceptable. For the Fourth Amendment, the decision is just as profound because it speaks to the quiet expectation we all share that our private lives should remain private. The court said loud and clear that government cannot simply search your home, your car, or even your smartphone without strong legal justification. Think about how much of your life is now stored in that small device in your pocket: medical records, family photos, personal conversations. The ruling reinforces that these are not open doors for anyone in authority to step through at will. Let me put it into a simple picture. Imagine you went through the proper steps to buy a firearm, passed background checks, and still faced endless red tape before bringing it home. Or imagine being pulled over for a minor traffic stop, and suddenly an officer demands to scroll through your phone without a warrant. Those are the everyday situations this ruling directly addresses, reminding us that the Constitution protects ordinary people in ordinary moments. As older adults, many of you have lived through decades of changing rules, shifting expectations, and the slow creep of government into spaces that once felt entirely your own. That can create an undercurrent of anxiety, a sense that you no longer control the boundaries of your life. The court's message offers reassurance you do have rights, and they are not meant to fade with age or convenience. The takeaway here is simple but powerful. Your ability to defend yourself and your family, and your right to keep your personal life private, remain firmly protected. While challenges will continue and states may test the limits, this decision sets a foundation you can lean on. Remember, staying informed is one of the best forms of self-care because it lets you make decisions with clarity rather than fear. And when you recognize that your rights are still intact, you can face each day with greater peace of mind, knowing you are not powerless but still very much in charge of your own life. What this ruling means for gun owners. For many Americans, especially those over 65, the idea of personal safety carries more weight with every passing year. You may live alone now, or you may share a home with a spouse, But either way, you understand how vulnerable it can feel when your body's not as strong as it used to be. That is why the recent Supreme Court decision has become such an important turning point for ordinary gun owners, because it sets limits on how far government regulations can go in making firearm ownership difficult or nearly impossible. Let's imagine two neighbors, one in Texas and one in California. In Texas, the process of purchasing a firearm may feel relatively straightforward with shorter waiting periods and fewer bureaucratic obstacles. In California, on the other hand, many seniors have faced long waits, complex licensing rules, and bans on firearms they once considered common tools for self-defense. This difference is not just about geography. It creates a real emotional divide where some seniors feel empowered, while others feel quietly restricted in their ability to protect themselves. The court highlighted several kinds of regulations that may no longer hold up under scrutiny. Laws that ban certain types of widely used firearms are now likely to be challenged. Extended waiting periods that leave seniors anxious and exposed while living alone may be reconsidered. Complicated registration systems that feel overwhelming, especially if you are not comfortable with paperwork or technology, could be seen as unreasonable burdens. Each of these examples speaks to the daily frustrations that older Americans know all too well, where the barrier is not just physical but emotional, leaving you feeling powerless in your own home. The ruling also reinforced a cultural principle deeply rooted in American history, the belief that my home is my castle. For seniors, this phrase is more than a tradition. It is the reassurance that you can feel safe in the place where you sleep, eat, and welcome family. The court emphasized that the right to self-defense inside the home is central to the Second Amendment, and that no law should create conditions that effectively disarm law-abiding citizens. That recognition matters because it acknowledges the quiet fear many seniors carry, the fear of a break-in or an unexpected knock at the door when you are least able to respond quickly. It is important to understand, though, that the court did not wipe away all regulations. Firearm ownership still comes with responsibilities, and laws that are reasonable and clear will remain in place. What has changed is the threshold. Any regulation must now respect the constitutional right to bear arms, rather than making that right meaningless through red tape or excessive barriers. In practice, this means future debates will focus not on whether you may own a firearm, but on whether the rules surrounding that ownership are fair, balanced, and justified. Looking ahead, many states will face lawsuits that test the limits of their current laws. Advocacy groups, lawyers, and everyday citizens will bring challenges to court, and the results could reshape the legal landscape in significant ways. For seniors, this process might feel slow or uncertain, but it is also an opportunity. By staying informed and aware, you can ensure that your voice is part of the conversation about what fair regulation looks like. There is also a health angle worth noting. Anxiety about safety can weigh heavily on older adults, raising blood pressure, disrupting sleep, and contributing to a constant undercurrent of stress. When the court reaffirms your right to defend yourself, it is not just a legal victory. It is a reminder that you can reduce that silent stress by knowing the law stands with you. Protecting your peace of mind is just as important as protecting your body, because chronic worry can slowly erode your well-being. So what can you do right now? Begin by learning the specific rules in your state and how this ruling may affect them. Talk with trusted family members or neighbors about your concerns so you are not carrying the weight of fear alone. If you already own a firearm, make sure it is stored safely, but also accessible if needed. If you are considering ownership, know that the path should become more reasonable, and you have every right to pursue it without feeling guilty or ashamed. The bottom line is clear. This decision does not guarantee that every barrier will vanish, but it does promise that the barriers must respect your rights. As an older adult, you still hold the power to protect yourself, to make informed choices, and to live with confidence in your own home. And that knowledge, perhaps more than anything else, can bring you the sense of security you deserve at this stage of life. The impact on privacy. Picture this for a moment. You are driving home after a long day of errands, perhaps stopping at the pharmacy or the grocery store. A police officer pulls you over for a minor issue, maybe a broken tail light or rolling too slowly through a stop sign. Instead of handing you a simple warning, the officer asks to see your phone and begins scrolling through your messages without a warrant. That uneasy feeling in your stomach is not just about the traffic stop. It is about the sudden loss of privacy, the sense that your personal world can be opened without your permission. This is exactly why the Supreme Court's unanimous ruling matters so much, because it draws a clear boundary around what government can and cannot do. A warrantless search is simply a search conducted without a judge's written approval, something meant to protect citizens from unnecessary intrusion. For years, exceptions were stretched wide, giving law enforcement the ability to step into private spaces more easily than many people realize. Seniors especially have felt the weight of these uncertainties, carrying quiet anxiety that what is personal might not remain personal. The ruling confirms that privacy is not a luxury. It is a fundamental right that extends to your home, your car, your belongings, and your digital life. Imagine someone walking into your living room without knocking or digging through the glove compartment of your car without reason. Now consider how much of your life sits in your email, on your smartphone, or in cloud storage. Family photos, medical appointments, financial records, even memories of loved ones who are no longer here. These are not just files or data points. They are pieces of your story, and the court has reminded us that they must be guarded with care. For older adults, the digital age brings unique pressures. You may already feel overwhelmed by technology, unsure about passwords, updates, or new devices. That uncertainty can add stress, especially when combined with the fear that someone in authority might reach in and take what they want. Research shows that chronic stress raises blood pressure, disrupts sleep, and weakens the immune system, all of which are common concerns in later years. Protecting privacy, then, is not only about rights on paper. It is about protecting peace of mind, lowering that invisible weight pressing on your shoulders. The cultural meaning is powerful as well. Americans have long believed that individual freedom comes before government convenience. Seniors who have lived through decades of change understand this better than anyone. You know what it feels like when boundaries shift, when trust in institutions wavers, when what was once private suddenly feels exposed. This decision restores some of that balance, saying clearly that shortcuts are no longer acceptable. So what can you do in daily life? First, stay mindful about the information you share, whether online or in person. Keep your devices protected with passwords you can remember, but others cannot guess. Talk with family about your comfort level when using apps, email, or cloud services, so you have support when questions arise. If you ever feel pressured to allow a search, remember that you have the right to say no unless proper legal process is followed. These small actions reinforce your control, giving you confidence that you are not helpless in the face of authority. The most important message here is one of reassurance. You still hold the power to draw the line around your personal life, and the highest court in the nation has just confirmed that right. Yes, the digital world can feel intimidating, and yes, the thought of intrusion is unsettling. But you are not without protection, and you are not without choice. By knowing your rights and taking practical steps, you can safeguard both your privacy and your health, allowing you to live with greater calm and dignity in the years ahead. How states are likely to respond. The Supreme Court's unanimous decision did not just echo through Washington, it sent ripples into every state house and police department across the country. For seniors who have lived long enough to watch America swing from one political era to another, this moment may feel familiar, yet it carries its own unique weight. Some states will adjust quietly, while others will resist loudly, and the differences will be deeply felt depending on where you live. Consider California, New York, and New Jersey states with some of the strictest gun laws in the nation. Residents there often face bans on commonly owned firearms, mandatory registration rules, and long waiting periods that can stretch the nerves of anyone living alone. In these states, lawmakers are likely to push back against the court's ruling, but they will also face lawsuits forcing them to reconsider the constitutionality of their laws. That means years of debate hearings and political maneuvering, leaving ordinary citizens caught in the middle. Now compare that to Texas or Florida, where gun laws are already far less restrictive. In those states, the ruling will be celebrated as confirmation that their approach was constitutionally sound all along. Seniors there may feel less immediate change, but the ruling still matters because it sets national limits, ensuring even the most lenient states cannot slide toward unreasonable restrictions in the future. The divide between states will become sharper, and as always, the people living within their borders will carry the emotional burden of that divide. Political clashes are inevitable. Legislators in states with strict gun control will argue that public safety demands restrictions, while opponents will claim that the court has drawn a clear constitutional line. These debates may fill newspapers, television, and dinner table conversations for years. For older adults, such conflict can stir up stress, especially when it feels like the ground beneath your feet is constantly shifting. Stress, as doctors remind us, does not simply make you uncomfortable. It can raise blood pressure, disrupt sleep, and weaken your heart. That is why understanding the process is not just about following the news. It is about protecting your health by reducing uncertainty. Police departments will also feel the pressure. For decades, some agencies have relied on broad interpretations of when a warrant is required. Now they must retrain officers, revise search protocols, and adopt stricter standards. That may not sound dramatic, but for everyday people, especially seniors, it means fewer surprises when dealing with law enforcement. Knowing that an officer cannot casually search your car or your phone without proper legal grounds can bring a small but meaningful sense of relief. Lower courts will soon be overwhelmed with cases. Citizens advocacy groups and lawyers will challenge old regulations, arguing that they failed to meet the court's standard. These cases may take months or even years to resolve, and in the meantime, uncertainty will remain. Seniors should be prepared for a long period of adjustment because laws will not change overnight. What matters most is staying informed about the specific rules in your own state and not assuming that what is true in Florida will be true in New Jersey. So what can you do? Practically speaking, start by paying attention to local news and legal updates, especially those that mention changes in firearm regulations or search and seizure policies. Talk with family members who may be more comfortable with technology to help you track reliable sources. If you feel anxious about your rights, consult a local attorney or community group for guidance. The act of seeking information itself can reduce that heavy feeling of helplessness, reminding you that you are not at the mercy of forces beyond your control. The hopeful message is this: while the political battles will rage on, the Supreme Court's ruling has set a firm foundation that cannot be ignored. No matter where you live, your rights have been reinforced, and states must respect them, even if they try to resist. For older Americans who value security, independence, and dignity, that knowledge can ease the quiet worry that has weighed on your shoulders for too long. By staying engaged, asking questions, and supporting one another, you can navigate the changes ahead with confidence, knowing that your voice and your rights still matter in the America you have spent a lifetime building. The history and meaning of the Second and Fourth Amendments. To understand why the Supreme Court's ruling matters so deeply, we need to look back at the roots of the Constitution. The Second Amendment was born during the Revolutionary Era, a time when ordinary farmers and shopkeepers stood up against one of the most powerful empires in the world. For them, owning a firearm was not just about hunting or sport. It was about survival, self-defense, and the ability to resist a government that could grow too powerful. That spirit of independence became woven into American culture, shaping how generations after them viewed the right to bear arms. The Fourth Amendment grew from a different kind of fear, but one that was equally powerful. In colonial days, British authorities often searched homes without reason, rifling through private belongings with no respect for personal dignity. The framers of the Constitution wanted to make sure no American family would ever live under that shadow again. They wrote protections that affirmed a simple but profound idea: "A man's home is his castle." That phrase still echoes today, especially among seniors who treasure the safety and privacy of their own homes. For older Americans, these amendments are not abstract legal words. They touch everyday life in quiet but important ways. The ability to feel secure at night, to keep personal papers private, and to know that no one can take away your right to defend yourself. These are foundations of peace of mind. When stress about safety or privacy creeps in, it can weigh heavily on your heart and even affect your health, raising blood pressure or disturbing sleep. The cultural message is clear. America has always believed that individual freedom comes first, even when it creates inconvenience for the government. That belief has helped carry this nation through wars, social changes, and political divides. For seniors, it is a reminder that your independence, hard won over a lifetime, is still respected. By understanding this history, you can face the future with more confidence, knowing the principles that shape this country are still protecting you today. Different views and social debate. When the Supreme Court announced its unanimous decision, many people immediately celebrated, calling it a victory for freedom and constitutional rights. For those who have long believed that government rules had chipped away at personal liberty, the ruling felt like a deep breath of fresh air. Seniors who had faced endless paperwork or delays in exercising their rights could finally sense that the law was on their side again. That relief, however, is not shared by everyone. On the other hand, some Americans reacted with concern, fearing that loosening restrictions on firearms might open the door to more violence. They worry about headlines filled with shootings and about how police will keep neighborhoods safe when their tools for prevention are limited. This perspective can be unsettling to older adults who may already carry quiet anxiety about crime and safety in their communities. The thought that protection is slipping away can increase stress levels, leading to restless nights or higher blood pressure. There are also voices in the middle reminding us that the court did not erase every law. Instead, it demanded that laws be constitutional, striking a balance between freedom and public safety. This is a perspective many seniors can appreciate because life has taught you that truth often lives somewhere between two extremes. It is not about having no rules, but about making sure rules are fair, respectful, and grounded in the nation's founding principles. At the heart of this debate lies an old American question. How do we protect individual liberty while also keeping our communities safe? For older generations, this balance is familiar because you have lived through wars, social movements, and cultural shifts that all wrestled with the same issue. The answer is never simple, but it requires honest conversation, respect for different experiences, and an understanding that both freedom and safety matter. For you as a senior, the key is to stay engaged without letting fear overwhelm you. Listen to different viewpoints, but remember that your well-being depends on more than arguments in the news. Take steps to protect your health, your peace of mind, and your sense of security. The ruling may stir debate for years, but you still have the ability to shape how it affects your life. As we come to the close of this discussion, it is worth pausing to reflect on what the Supreme Court has just done. With one unanimous ruling, the justices reaffirmed two of the most essential protections in American life: the right to bear arms and the right to keep your private world secure. For seniors who have lived through decades of change, this is a reminder that your freedoms are not fading away. They remain real, tangible, and ready to protect you when you need them most. The message is clear. Constitutional rights are not simply symbolic words on old parchment tucked away in history books. They are living guarantees that touch your daily life, from the ability to defend yourself at home to the reassurance that your phone or your personal papers cannot be opened without proper cause. These rights are not perfect shields, but they are strong enough to matter, and the court has made sure they continue to stand tall. Now, what should you do? Start by staying informed, because knowledge is a kind of medicine for the mind. Understanding how laws are shifting can calm your worries and reduce the hidden stress that can harm your health. Share what you learn with friends, neighbors, or family, because conversations help communities grow stronger. And please let your voice be heard. Leave a comment, offer your thoughts, or simply say, how this ruling makes you feel. Every perspective matters, especially from those who have carried the American story through so many chapters. Finally, hold on to a hopeful image. Think of a flag waving in the wind, not just as a symbol of the nation, but as a reminder that freedom itself is passed like a torch from one generation to the next. Your rights, your independence, and your dignity are part of that flame. By understanding them, defending them, and sharing them, you keep the light burning for your children and grandchildren. And that more than anything else is how America remains strong, one citizen at a time, standing tall with the quiet confidence that freedom still belongs to you.